This is specifically talking to married couples. I want you all to really look at your marriage, and I want you to think whether you've been married for a year or 5 years, 10, 15, or 50 years. My husband and I recently celebrated our 14-year anniversary, and we've known each other for over 20 years. And I could tell you, like I've told you all before, that the majority of the years of marriage that we have been in have been years where we've had to learn the process of being a united front. We came into our marriage both from the background of a divorced home. We came in and had our own sets of baggage that we brought to the table, our own strongholds and generational curses that we brought to the table, as we had this beautiful wedding with all of our guests, and we told the Most High Yah, we told our guests, "I do." But we didn't know what "I do" meant, and we didn't know how to persevere. So we struggled for many years in our marriage with fighting and demanding our own way. As my husband being the head, he fought for his leadership role. As me being his wife in this modern world, I fought to be able to have my own independence. And we would clash heads and bump heads so much that we literally wore ourselves out. We wore ourselves into an exhaustive stupor. And see, one of the reasons why I find that it's very important to address this issue is because we're talking about so many other things in the culture. We're talking about reparations. We're talking about politics. We're talking about racism. We're talking about so-called climate change. We're talking about Trump and the border. We're talking about all these different things. But we as Hebrews, we have to understand that when it comes to the kingdom of the Most High Yah, that there is an order and there's a structure. And what goes on in your marriage and what goes on in your family literally will have an impact within your community, which will have an impact in your city, which will have an impact in your state, which will have an impact in your nation. And because we have such broken homes, because we have such broken marriages, and we don't deal with this stuff for real, you know, we don't do the hard, laborious work of dealing with all of that generational garbage. Because of it, we see a breakdown in society. Y'all, I'm going to tell you right now, that Satan's biggest attack is on your home. That's where it's at. That's why on this channel, we focus on faith, family, and the future of our community. You cannot go outside of the order of the Most High Yah. And for marriage, for child rearing, and expect his hand of blessing to fully be upon you. Now, he might put out things for you here and there because you belong to him, but that's just his grace. He's calling you to obedience. The Bible says that can two walk together unless they agree? It also says where two or more are gathered in his name, that he is in the midst. The Most High Yah believes in the power of agreement, and when you come into a unification with your spouse, when you humble yourself, both man and woman, humble yourself before his mighty throne, then you will begin to see prosperity on the inside. Now, when people talk about prosperity, they're talking about money. But that's not what true prosperity is. True prosperity, according to the book of Proverbs, and I believe it's in chapter 22, is that you would have peace. That it's better for you to have peace in your heart and in your home than to have all the wealth of the world and have chaos and disorder. I might be off on that chapter, but the book of Proverbs is replete with wisdom concerning this very fact, that you have to have true prosperity, which is being on the inside of a right mind. And you can't be of a right mind when there's chaos and disorder in your home, when there's no boundaries set, when people can come in and they can tell you how you're going to live your life because you have not taken a stand in your marriage and in your life. Recently, Fantasia came out on an interview on The Breakfast Club where she was talking about the power of submission and why women need to submit to their husbands. That word submission has been such a dirty word in our culture, particularly in the 1960s during the feminazi movement. And it has literally being used as a hammer against the Hebrew homes. We don't even understand the power behind submission, because submission frees you to be the woman that the Most High Yah called you to be. See, we're trying to be everything. We're trying to be the man and the woman. We're trying to be uber strong and at the same time gentle. And we want our men gentle, but at the same time strong. We're confused. And this is why it's so important for us to understand the power of unification, because understanding the power of unification allows us to fit snugly into our roles. And we fit snugly into our roles, then there's nobody on the outside that will be able to come in and break up that union. You see, we as a people are targeted for attack on a continual basis, and we understand that. But we don't understand that being a united front in the home is the first measure against Satan. It's the first measure against his wiles and his tactics. Because if we can be unified in the home, then we can bring it to the children. And then when there's unification with the husband and wife and children, then we could bring it into the community. Because what we do and bringing it to the community is not even by saying anything, but by living it. You see, because when you can live to the standards that have been set before you in His Word, people will take notice. Your life is an open book, and people are watching you. And sometimes agents of darkness are being used by Satan to see just how he can infiltrate your home. Now, if you don't have unity, he will infiltrate your home. If you can't stand as a united front on the word of the Most High Yah, what He's already told you, then Satan will win over your home. And this is where these generational curses happen from one generation to the next. Because we're not dealing with our pride. We're not dealing with wanting our own way. We only cut off our nose to spite our face when we don't unify. So my husband and I learned that we needed to work together. We learned that we're not each other's enemy. We're not in competition, but we instead are to complement one another. And we learned that our value can never be found in one another. See, the process of unification is the understanding that your true value cannot be fulfilled in any one person. Your value will only be fulfilled in the Most High Yah. It is His Ruach that fills you, and it helps you to understand that you first belong to Him. You are His bride. And when you can do that, then you can allow Him to work in your spouse. But the problem is we got too many men trying to control their wives. And we got too many wives that are trying to control their husbands. Instead of it being that dance that Fantasia's husband spoke about later, that beautiful dance of submission, whereby we can honor one another. Y'all, we've got to get it together. I wrote a book not too long ago called Girlfriend Mentality to Wife Reality. A good marriage is a terrible thing to waste. The reason why I wrote this book is because I understand that the battlefield is in the mind. I understand that as women, we come into marriage single-mindedness. Same thing with the men. Come with a single-minded approach. And we think that that's going to work in a marriage. We're not trained to understand that we are being called to unify. But I wrote this book, and it's a short book. I'll include a link to it if you're interested in downloading this book. It's a very short read, but I believe it's a powerful read, because what it does is help us to understand the process of oneness. Now, I know there's a lot of people who put out books about marriage, and I commend them. There are awesome materials out there. But I'm putting this out specifically to the Hebrew community, because we are a unique people. And we are the ones that have been utterly destroyed. Do we understand that more than 70% of our children are being born out of wedlock? 70%. That number is astronomical, it's devastating, it's beyond crisis. But that's because we don't understand the power of unification. So I want to encourage you to download this book. And for those of you who already have downloaded the book, I want to tell you thank you. And I definitely want to hear your testimonies. You can email them to me at ashonda@large@gmail.com. But I want to encourage you, because let me tell you something. The enemy's coming in, and he is not playing. He's not playing with you, and he's not playing with me. We can't afford to play with him. We've got to stand. My husband and I learned to stand. And let me tell you something. The generational curses of divorce and dysfunction have been utterly dismantled in the mighty name of Yahusha, because he gave us power to unify. So I extend that power to you. Unify in your marriage. If you're not married, and you're dating, if you're not married and you're shacking up, really allow the Ruach to convict you so that you can change that course and that you can do it his way, because there's no better way than his way. Well, I want to thank you for taking time to listen to Ashonda at Large, where we discuss faith, family, and the future of our community. If you have any comments below, I definitely invite you to leave them. Please like and share as well. And as always, love yourself without hating your enemies. And until next time, Yah bless and Salamah.